Hello and welcome to another Doctor Who related video. In today's Doctor Who related video, I'm looking at that thing behind me, Big Finish. Probably the reason why some of you subscribed is my Big Finish content. So I got a comment on Memory Lane, what I did with Jark on Reviews, what was basically me and him discussing why we got into Doctor Who and how we became Doctor Who fans. So I'll leave a link in the description below and a little thing there if you want to check out that video. But I got a comment from John Chisholm. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. Apologies if I pronounce it wrong. And he basically said, I'll be curious to hear how you got into Big Finish, your memories of that. And I thought, you know what, that's a very good idea. And since it's the 20th anniversary of Big Finish, and I've been listening to Big Finish technically for 6 years, but officially 5 years. Don't worry, it sounds very confusing, but it's very simple when I explain it. So I thought, you know what, let's do a video of me going down the Big Finish journey, because now Big Finish, I started out just wanting to get the 8th Doctor stuff. And as you can see, it is kind of spiraled out of control, where my wallet probably goes, please, no more Big Finish, where my ears are going, yeah, come on, give us new Big Finish, because you know what? Your ears will love you, but your wallet will hate you. That's Big Finish for you in a nutshell, but it's brilliant. So this video isn't me going, here are 10 stories for new listeners. This is basically me going, this is where I started with Big Finish, and this is where I am now with Big Finish. So it's kind of the Big Finish journey. To put it very poetically, my journey with Big Finish. So this could be a bit counselling, going, hi, I'm Purpose of 11 and I'm addicted to Big Finish. So this might be therapeutic for me and therapy. But there we go. So this is the one thing what I want to start off with. This is probably the most intelligent thing I'll probably say throughout the whole video, because this whole video is basically going to be story time with Purpose of 11. But the most important thing what I would say with Big Finish is there is no set path with Big Finish. There is no golden list of stories. If you listen to these stories, then you'll be addicted to Big Finish. There is no right or wrong way to get into Big Finish. It's all down to, it's all subjective. It's all down to personal preferences, whether that story interests you or you're a fan of it. I mean, when I reveal the stories, what kick-started my collection, there's kind of a bit of a common theme within them, and I feel like if you use things what are familiar to you, like a monster or a doctor, then you're probably going to fall in love with Big Finish. And I would love to do a video about here are 10 stories for new listeners, but yeah, this video isn't that. So let's begin this Big Finish journey. Where did I first hear about or discover Big Finish? Well, I first discovered Big Finish in this Doctor Who magazine, issue 370. Don't worry, I didn't memorise the number, I looked at the side. And this was my first experience of Big Finish, because inside is advertised the Kingmaker. I don't know if you can see, there we are, the Kingmaker was something inside, because I knew the 8th Doctor was a Doctor who only had one appearance as the Doctor on screen, so I was like, hang on, there are these CDs featuring the 8th Doctor? Little me was blown away. I was just like, wow, that's absolutely mind-blowing. And then I saw an advertisement again in Doctor Who magazine about, you know, Doctor Who on Radio 7. I was like, oh my god, we're going to have 8th Doctor Time War stories. I was quite disappointed when I went on to BBC Radio 7 going, oh, I was expecting Time War. Because, you know, War Doctor didn't exist back then, didn't exist back in 2007. So, you know, the 8th Doctor was the Doctor of the Time War and still technically is. So I was kind of going, oh my god, we're going to have Time War 8th Doctor stories. But no, so that was my little foray into Big Finish. Now in 2009 I was a big avid fan of this old magazine, Doctor Who Adventures, and of course they give away the mutant phase, which I listened to a year later, and I listened to this for day Flesh and Stone aired actually, and I remember really enjoying it, but I didn't think much of it, I'll be honest. It wasn't enough to make me go, oh, I want to start getting the Doctor Who CDs. And again, around about the same time, I think it was literally the same month, Doctor Who magazine gave a freebie of Cuddlesome. Yeah, it's interesting that they gave away 2 5th Doctor stories. I can understand Mutant Phase, but I think Cuddlesome was an exclusive to Doctor Who magazine anyway. So those were technically the first 2 Big Finish stories in my collection. So let's flash forward to 2013 now. So 2013 was a big year for Doctor Who. It was the 50th anniversary, but it was also a big year for me, because I started to foray into the Doctor Who audios. Now, around about this time, the DVD range was, you know, slowly wrapping up. We only had a few more stories left to be released, and the figure line was again slowly wrapping up. We only had a few more figure sets left to be released. So I thought I need new Doctor Who. I want to experience new Doctor Who stories. So I started buying these missing episode soundtracks, and I bought the 2 John Pertwee stories as well, because I really wanted to experience and have new Doctor Who. I wanted to experience these missing, these whole new, William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton stories. And I think that the missing episode soundtracks really set me up in a good place to get into Big Finish. Because if you think about it, if you're not sure how to visualise the story, you can look at the telesnaps. You know what the characters are like, you know how they act, you can just look at the sets and go, okay, that's what the sets look like, I can visualise it in my head now. And if you get lost within the story, there's linking narration. So to me, the missing episodes were kind of a great way of sort of bridging sort of an audiobook, but also being, a full cast adventure. So I feel like the BBC soundtracks were a great little platform to get used to the audio medium. And I get that audio isn't for everyone, but for me, I kind of feel like that put me in a good state with Big Finish. So when I was buying the missing episode soundtracks, this is where we go back into Big Finish, I saw this story, Blood Tide, on bid for £2. And I won the bid, and I got Blood Tide for £2. And I listened to this, and I absolutely love it. Blood Tide is one of my favourite Sixth Doctor audios, and it's one of my favourite audios. And I think that's the thing, when it's one of your first audios, you naturally love it because it was the first. It was one of your first to kickstart, your collection. And this is my first, proper Big Finish in a proper case. Now, if you follow my channel, you'll know I'm a massive fan of Doctor Who and the Siler, and it's my favourite story along with the Sea Devil. So, that was a plus because, something familiar. That's what I mean with Big Finish. You use something familiar to help it feel less odd and strange, and for you to have some sort of familiarity when you're listening to it. And the Sixth Doctor had a new companion called Evelyn, who I just naturally fell in love with. I just love the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn's dynamic, even back in 2013. And I just love this story. The Silurians are just absolutely brutal, and I get why it's, I say that it's quite controversial, and it is quite controversial because what the Silurians did, but it fits in the Silurian sort of character, it fits into their nature incredibly well. So yeah, Blood Tide, absolutely love. So that was 2013, or was it? So that was my little foray into Big Finish. But in November 2013, we had a lovely surprise, didn't we? We had Night of the Doctor with Paul McGann. And that was just mind-blowing. The 8th Doctor, we've got a new 8th Doctor story. Amazing. And that kind of really ignited the Big Finish fire for me. That really made me want to get into Big Finish. I wanted more 8th Doctor. I thought like I was big enough and old enough to understand Big Finish and to enjoy it because, like I said, as a kid, I listened to, some of the stuff what you got for in the Radio Times, like the Resurrection Casket. Wasn't too keen on it, and that kind of put me off of audios, but I felt like, being a lot more older now and hopefully wiser, I could, get into the audios. So moving on to 2014 now, this is when we actually get into the Big Finish. This is when I actually start to become hooked and addicted to Big Finish. So for my birthday, I asked for Big Finish, as you do, and I got 2 stories from the Mary Shelley trilogy, The Army of Death and The Silver Turk. I listened to The Army of Death first, even though it was the last in the trilogy, and I absolutely love it. I really do have a bit of a soft spot for this because this was my first kind of taste of the 8th Doctor on Big Finish. It's a bit of a weird one to start with, but you know what? I really enjoy it. I found like it just has some really strong visual ideas with sort of this skeleton army and the 8th Doctor. It's just a really good story to visualise in your head, and I think that's why I really like it for a sort of a beginner listen, really. But the Silver Turk, oh yeah, if you've seen my top 8 8th Doctor audios, then you know I absolutely love this story, and I think that this is one of the best Cyberman stories, if not the best Big Finish Cyberman story they've done. Oh, that's controversy because spare parts, but yeah, I genuinely love the Silver Turk. I just think it's marvellous, and the Mary Shelley trilogy is just magnificent. I have a soft spot for it because, like I said, it's the first sort of time I experienced the 8th Doctor. So yeah, the Silver Turk and the Army of Death were the sort of starting point, and I said that I'd only want to get the 8th Doctor stuff because it's the 8th Doctor and he's the person I want to focus on, so I was more predominantly focused on that. And I think around about this time I won Storm Warning and the Stones of Venice. Little did I know how rare Storm Warning was. I think I paid 17 quid for my Storm Warning. Little did I know that 2014 it would be going for like 200 quid. So because I had some birthday money, I went to good old Forbidden Planet. And I remember just seeing the wall of Big Finish, what was in Forbidden Planet, and just going, oh my god, that's amazing. I'd love to have all of these stories. I had all the main range companion chronicles in Forbidden Planet. And I bought 3 stories. I bought Timeworks, which again, I absolutely love. I think that it is a fantastic story with a really great concept behind it, and I just love it. The music is fantastic, and it's kind of the 8th Doctor's equivalent of the Girl of the Fireplace in a way, because it's the 8th Doctor and Clockwork Droids, but not the Clockwork Droids what we all know, and it's marvellous. It is really great, and I love it. It's got some great sort of brilliant dialogue about the tick in between the talk. It's just fantastic. It's a really great story about time, and it's by Steve Lyons, so you know you're in for a really good story. And surprisingly, I bought the Zygon Who Fell to Earth, and my logic was, it's a Zygon and the 8th Doctor, let's buy it. Little did I know that it's, the second story in the Auntie Pat trilogy, but you know what? I think you can understand it without, horror of glam rock. I think that it's pretty self-explanatory within the story. And you know what? I loved it. I listened to this, literally on the same day I got it. Loved it. It's a great story by Paul Mars. Now the next audio I'm going to show you is probably an audio what you wouldn't probably say, yeah, that's good for a new listener, or that's a good place for a new listener to start. But I got this, Lords of the Red Planet. The reason why I got this is because I did my research. I did my research on what stories I'd like to experience, and I thought, you know what, I'll get this, because if you don't know, I'm a huge fan of the Ice Warriors. The Ice Warriors are my 3rd favourite Doctor Who monster. They are fantastic. They've just got such a rich heritage and culture behind them, and there's more to it than I'm going to destroy the world or whatever. There's so much more, and I think they are incredibly great, and the design is fantastic. I'd love to do a video of my favourite Ice Warrior stories, do the TV and Big Finish and all manner, and just kind of do an Ice Warrior video. That'd be amazing. But the reason why I wanted to get this is because it's basically the genesis of the Ice Warriors. Basically how the Ice Warriors came to be. And it's a 6-part story, and it's got a relatively small cast, which you probably think's not wise for a person who wants to get into Big Finish. But you know what? I loved it. I loved it. I think that this is probably my favourite 2nd Doctor audio. And this is what I mean. I think when you're getting into Big Finish, you've got to pick stuff what's familiar and stories what interest you, and this was perfect for me because I love the Ice Warriors, and I just love the concept of this story. Now I had a bit of a rule when I first started getting Big Finish, was to only get the 8th Doctor stuff. I know I kind of broke it with Blood Tide and Lords of the Red Planet, but I was mostly focused on the 8th Doctor stuff because that's a Doctor I hadn't experienced. So I was buying, the 8th Doctor Adventure with Lucy for like £3 on Amazon because they were really dirt cheap to get, so that was a great way of bulking up the collection. But again, that soon changed when I found out that the first main range stories, the 1 to 50s, were going out of print. And that was kind of panic stations, because I'm quite old fashioned. I like to have physical media. I like to have the physical thing to say that I actually own it, so I can go, look, there it is on the shelf. So yeah, as much as downloads are great and very good for, saving space, I like to have the physical media so I know that I actually physically own it, and I can actually show something for my money instead of going, here's something I paid £10 for, but it's digital. So I like to have the physical thing so I know that I've actually spent my money on something. So yeah, that kind of caused a bit of a panic when that happened. And of course the 1 to 50 stories, what was still in print, were about £5, so it was very easy to bulk up your main range collection back then because of £5. So I was like, okay, I can buy this main range story now or whatever, and I'll go to Forbidden Planet every month and buy 3 Big Finish stories. So I'd look on the website what stories were out of print and go, okay, I can buy them in Forbidden Planet. So that's a great way. And the 1 to 50s were a real pain. There was one elusive one called Storm Warning, the first 8th Doctor one, which I managed to get very early on. It was one of the first main range stories, like I said earlier in the video, I think. I managed to get it for £17, and that year later on it went for about 200 quid. It was just absolutely ridiculous because people just were so invested, and people would start. This was kind of the surge of Big Finish starting to become a bit more popular. I started reviewing Big Finish in 2014 on my channel. And the 1 to 50s, I think that's why I have such a love for the 1 to 50s, because that was kind of the area of Big Finish where I focused on the most, because I was collecting the 1 to 50s from the end of March to about the end of August. So I was very happy to complete the first 50 main range stories, because it was kind of a sigh of relief that I don't have to stress about getting these audios now, because, you know, it was just absolute manic. The amount of bid wars you'd get in to try and get these CDs, it was just crazy. I got to complete my 1 to 50 collection was either Creatures of Beauty or Mutant Phase, because I had the Mutant Phase from Doctor Who Adventure, so I wasn't really fussed on getting that just straight away. Or it was Necromantia, which I can see why I left Necromantia to last, because it's not that great, is it? It's kind of a bit of a controversial one. So once I'd completed the 1 to 50s, I thought, you know what, I can branch out now, I can try some different ranges. So I went off and got the 4th Doctor Adventures Lost Stories box set, which I just absolutely loved. I thought it was absolutely magnificent. I loved it. You know, and those are the audios what me and my dad listen to. He's a big fan of the 4th Doctor and John Pertwee, so I guess that's why my love of their Doctors come from him. And after listening to the 4th Doctor Lost Stories box set, I wanted more 4th Doctor, and it kind of surprised me how long it took me to get into the 4th Doctor stuff, considering he's one of my favourite Doctors. I guess because I was prioritising the 1 to 50s, that was where my main drawing factor was. And the 1 to 50s, like I say in every video what I do when I mention them, I've got to say that I just love them, because they're so experimental, they're so different. Big Finish wasn't as restricted as what it is now. It's very much, you can do whatever you want, and you know, it's just for sheer creativity. Like, even if the story's bad, you can really admire the experimental creative nature of the story, and that's what I love about the 1 to 50s, and they hold a special place in my heart. But going back to the 4th Doctor, within listening to the Lost Stories, I bought Energy of the Daleks, which I love. I think that is a great story for somebody getting into Big Finish. I think that's a really good one to put on, you know, the top 10 stories for new listeners, because Energy of the Daleks I just think is a really great story. And I began listening to the 4th Doctor Adventures, and then there was a sale on the Lost Story, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to buy some Lost Stories. And of course you pick the prolific ones. You pick Nightmare Fair. I picked up Leviathan because the trailer really intrigued me. You know, I picked up, you know, some of the season 23 stories because I was just fascinated because of these stories what you've heard about on DVD extras, and you're like, oh my god, I cannot wait to experience these. So I started to branch out a little bit further, and that's kind of where 2014 kind of ended up. Moving on to 2015, I have to say that 2015 for Big Finish was a brilliant year. It's one of my favourite Big Finish years because we had so many announcements. I went to my first ever Big Finish day, which I absolutely loved. I went to 2 of them in that year. I went to one in January and one in September. I went to Big Finish Day 6 and 7. I haven't been to one recently. I really should rectify that, because I really did enjoy them, because, you know, you take your CDs, you get it signed by the people, and the Big Finish is dirt cheap. You know, the CDs are about £5, and I basically completed the Lost Stories range just by going to Big Finish Day, because they're just so cheap. I was like, wow, come on, let's buy some Big Finish. And that was just a really great little event. You got little teasers of some upcoming release. I remember Triumph for Sutek being announced there and just being absolutely amazed, going, oh my god, Sutek on Big Finish, how amazing. It was just, I love Big Finish Day, and it was great meeting, you know, some of the people who star, like Lisa Greenwood, you know, meeting India Fisher, you know, Charlotte Pollard, you know, who's very kind of ingrained in my mind, because, you know, I followed the 8th Doctor and Charlie stuff in the main range. It was just, it's so wonderful to meet those people. So yeah, I loved it. And, you know, meeting Alex McQueen at Comic-Con was great, because I really do like Alex McQueen's Master. And 2015, I was really engrossed into the Big Finish world. I was really into it because I started to get subscriptions. I subscribed to the 4th Doctor Adventure Series 4, and ever since I've been a subscriber. And the main range, I started a subscription with Mistfall, and ever since I've been a subscriber. It's just the 2 ranges what I just have to have straight away, you know what I mean, and the 3rd Doctor stuff, and, you know, there are ranges where I'm absolutely gonna buy them straight away, and there are other things where I'm just like, yeah, I'll pass on those. So like anything with the 4th Doctor, any sort of main range sort of stuff, any 3rd Doctor or Companion Chronicle, you know, the 8th Doctor and 10th Doctor stuff, I'll buy straight away as well. But, you know, other things like Unit or Torchwood or whatever, they have to kind of take my fancy for me to buy them, because I kind of cherry pick certain ranges, like the Lives of Captain Jack. I bought Volume 2, I haven't bought Volume 1, but I would like to get Volume 1 now, actually, since I've listened to that. But yeah, let's go on to the announcements. Now the announcements, I wrote them down so I don't forget them. So first of all, we had Unit, the new series of Unit, which I didn't buy. I thought that was quite exciting because it was like, oh, okay, that's really interesting because, you know, Unit, Kate Stewart was still relatively a new thing, and obviously she returned later in that year for the Zygon 2-parter and obviously Magician's Apprentice. And then we had Torchwood, which was exciting, but I'm not a huge fan of Torchwood, so I was just like, alright, that's fair enough. Now in June or July, I'm not exactly sure, in 2015, a lot of things changed. Big Finish got the new series license, and that was incredibly exciting because it had been a thing what had been, you know, dreaming of, going, oh my god, wouldn't it be amazing if Big Finish had the new series license, and there it was. Classic Doctor's New Monsters. What an incredibly exciting premise for a box set, and it's a box set what definitely is the strongest out of the first wave of new series stuff. You know, we had Churchill, which I haven't bought, and then we had Doom Coalition 2. I'm trying to think what else we had. And the Diary of the Song series 1, which I don't have. I think the only two I've got is Doom Coalition 2 and Classic Doctor's New Monsters from that first initial announcement. And ever since, Big Finish has just been surprising with the new series announcements. You know, we had, on that year, we had the 10th Doctor. I remember that very vividly. It was a Sunday, about 7 o'clock, and we had like a picture of the TARDIS with Golly from Time Reaver poking out, going, oh my god, announcement tomorrow. And it was the 10th Doctor and Donna. Amazing. My childhood TARDIS team on Big Finish. And surprise, I think took everyone by surprise, was John Hurt, the War Doctor on Big Finish. It was a thing what we could only dream of. Wouldn't it be amazing to have John Hurt on Big Finish? And there it was. And it was released, you know, within a matter of, you know, I think it was, the announcement was like 2 months before the actual release of Only the Monstrous, and just going, oh my god, this is amazing. And we had 4 box sets of John Hurt, and without Big Finish we probably wouldn't have had those wonderful stories what we did have with John Hurt. You know, I feel like my favourite box set from the War Doctor series is Infernal Device, is the second box set, because I think it actually does something very interesting with the Time War premise, whereas the others are kind of all over the place. But yeah, that was really exciting, because up until that point, you know, Big Finish had to have permission. I think with Gallifrey Series 6 they had to have a special license just to use the Bronze Daleks. So it's kind of amazing now that the Bronze Daleks are kind of a main staple on a Big Finish cover now with the Time War stuff or whatever. You can guarantee the Gold Daleks, are, you know, the Bronze Daleks are going to be on the cover. So 2015 was a brilliant year because obviously we had obviously all those lovely announcements. We had the Locum Doctors trilogy, which at the time was such an amazing and exciting thing to experience. You know, the 7th Doctor and Joe Grant, the 6th Doctor, Jamie and Zoe, even though it happened in Legend of the Cybermen, it was still exciting to experience that in Last of the Cybermen. And then we had Secret History of the 5th Doctor, Vicky and Stephen, which is probably my favourite out of the Locum Doctors trilogy. Arguably the Locum Doctors trilogy isn't the best, but at the time it was just an incredibly exciting thing to experience. And we had the 6th Doctor Last Adventure as well. Amazing to finally have the bookend for the 6th Doctor. I remember being incredibly excited, and Big Finish released it a month early because Amazon was selling it cheaper. So like, we're gonna get you. It's either you buy it from Amazon and wait a month, or buy it from us and get it early. And of course I bought it early because I couldn't wait for it. You know, it was just absolutely incredible. So that's what I mean, 2015 for me was one of the best years for Big Finish. We had a wonderful main range with like We Are the Daleks. You know, the E-Space trilogy was amazing. 2015, I just absolutely loved the main range. I thought it was just an amazing year for the main range, and just Big Finish in general. I think that it's definitely up there. I think 2019's kind of on par for me at the moment. I think 2019's just got some wonderful releases so far as well, but 2015 was just a brilliant time to be a Big Finish fan. And in 2015 I continued to broaden my horizon. I started to buy Companion Chronicles, which, if you followed my channel, you know that I'm very passionate about the Companion Chronicles because they're just so underrated as a range. I think there's so many hidden gems within that range, and I just love them. I think my first Companion Chronicle I listened to was The Ghost in the Machine, which is an audio I hold very dear to my heart, and I have reviewed it. And I bought 3 Third Doctor Companion Chronicles alongside Volume 1 of the Third Doctor with having Tim Treloar. That was really exciting, just to have my Doctor actually having, you know, proper full adventures on Big Finish. That was really exciting. I know Volume 1, I have kind of gone off it because I just think that the stories aren't the greatest. I think Prisoners of the Lake, I think it's called, is probably the strongest, and then Havoc of Empire is probably one of my least favourite Big Finish stories, actually. But it's still really exciting, and obviously the Third Doctor adventures for me now have really evolved and become so strong, and have just become a lot better. I feel like each volume just gets progressively better and better, which is what you want, really. You know, I think that's what's really great. But yeah, I started to dabble into the Companion Chronicles. I started to get those. I got the Last Post, Ghost in the Machine, and the Rings of Ikira. Those were my first Companion Chronicles I got, and I had the Bluetooth as well. And I started getting the First Doctor Companion Chronicles, but this is when I started to delve into the spin-offs as well. So we move on to 2016. I started buying Jago and Lightfoot, my favourite spin-off. I absolutely love these two. It is one of my favourite Big Finish ranges. I just love them. They're just amazing. The stories are amazing. You know, Series 2 is probably one of my favourites. You know, Jago and Lightfoot and vampires. I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who vampire things. And Series 5 I just love because it's so wacky and bonkers. Just Jago and Lightfoot in the 1960s, and the trailer just sells that box set, and honestly it's probably, I don't know if Series 5 or Series 2 is my favourite, but it's amazing. And Series 12, again, it's fantastic. There is not a bad Jago and Lightfoot box set what I've experienced. I love all of them, they're all amazing. So yeah, 2016 was kind of me going into the spin-offs. I bought Dalek Empire as well. We have the novel adaptations coming out, which was really exciting, and everyone hoping for Lung Barrow, but of course that never materialised. So yeah, 2016 was kind of just me starting to explore these different spin-offs, and just very much the same as 2015, continue getting the main range, the 8th Doctor stuff, you know, etc. All that kind of lovely thing, the 4th Doctor, and all that lovely thing. So yeah, 2016, not really much to say on that year, other than I became a massive 5th Doctor Big Finish fan because of a story called the Peterloo Massacre, which is one of my favourite Big Finish stories of all time. I think that it's incredibly powerful, pure historical. It is just amazing, and I love it. It's just got such a heart to it. And Paul Mars is very much a writer renowned for comedy, and it's so nice to see him go, you know what, I'm not just about comedy, I can do this. And it's a really wonderful, pure historical. It becomes a family drama at its heart. It's a really powerful thing. It's really powerful, and I love the Peterloo Massacre. So yeah, 2016 was a big thing for me because I just became really hooked on the 5th Doctor on Big Finish. I liked the 5th Doctor, you know, up until then, but I think 2016 is when I became, you know, just the 5th Doctor is my favourite main range Doctor now. He's just my favourite. I just love listening to the Peter Davison stuff. So yeah, 2019 is fantastic for the Peter Davison stuff because obviously we have the Chameleon trilogy, then we've got another trilogy later on in the year, and we've got Legacy of Time as well. It's just a great time. If the 5th Doctor is your favourite main range Doctor, it's going to be lovely. So I'm really excited for the 2019 main range stuff because it's just brilliant. And we've got 80s Cybermen and the 5th Doctor. How incredibly exciting, and it's going to deal with the aftermath of Earthshock, which is what you want really. It's a kind of a story what's kind of begging to be told. So yeah, that's 2019. We're skipping ahead. But yeah, I think 2016 as well, I started to buy some of the short trips. I bought the Time Tunnel, which I did review, and I loved it. And the short trips for me are kind of things what I buy occasionally. If there's a release what interests me, like Jago and Lightfoot, the Revival, or a Third Doctor one. And I bought a Full Life and the Adric ones. The Adric ones are really good actually. I think Full Life's a brilliant short trip, and I really do recommend that because that's a really good story alternative for Adric. 2016 we also had the Master trilogy in the main range, which was incredibly exciting. You know, with And You Will Obey Me, you know, Vampire of the Mind, the two Masters. That was a really exciting release in 2016. 2017, I'm trying to think what things that stand out for me in 2017. The 4th Doctor Adventures Series 6 because it was season 18, 4th Doctor. And it's probably my second favourite 4th Doctor series. It's just an amazing run of adventures. We had the announcement of the War Master, which you know, it's just become one of Big Finish's best ranges. You know, Only the Good is amazing. It's one of my favourite Big Finish box sets Big Finish have ever done. We had Time in Office, you know, in the main range of the Fifth Doctor being Lord President on Gallifrey with Tegan and Leela. One of my favourite main range stories because it's just, you know, Doctor Who does the thick of it, and I love that. I love kind of that political satire type of thing, and the fact that it's a comedy, it's just really fun listen. But 2018, there was quite a lot going on. We had obviously the Wallmaster join unit. We had, you know, we had Classic Doctor's New Monsters as well, Volume 2, which was probably my favourite out of the two Classic Doctor's New Monsters sets. But 2018, I would say, was another good year. I think 2018 for me was expanding on the spin-offs. You know, I bought Sarah Jane, the rest of Dalek Empire, I Davros, unit, you know, because I had those massive clearance sales, and I bought the Doctor Who Unbound stuff. So that was a great way of bulking up the collection because they were like £1. And we had some rather interesting announcements in the form of the new series stuff. We had the Tales from New Earth announced, which, yeah, I've actually got that box set now because of Doctor Who magazine gave it away for free. So I was like, alright, I'll see what that's about. So I may review Tales from New Earth, but I feel like that is a box set. I haven't listened to it yet, but I feel like it's a box set where it's just Big Finish going, oh, we've got the new series license, what can we do? I know, let's do a box set about New Earth. Now, I love New Earth as a story, and I love Gridlock, but I don't really feel invested enough to actually buy it as a box set. So I feel like that was Big Finish just kind of going, oh, yeah, just do that. We need to make use of this new series license, so, you know, what can you do? And, you know, we had Lady Christina, which I haven't bought. And I don't really intend to, and I think as well we had like the 10th Doctor Chronicles, which I'm very funny on because I get the 9th Doctor and I get the 11th Doctor Chronicles because we don't have Christopher Eccleston and Matt Smith doing Big Finish yet. I'm still hopeful that they will. But the 10th Doctor Chronicles I find really strange that we've got David Tennant doing Big Finish. Why not wait to do those stories full cast? You know? It just kind of baffles me that David Tennant is happily doing Big Finish for you, but you're getting somebody to impersonate him. It just doesn't make much sense to me, I'll be honest. But I can understand, you know, the 9th Doctor and 11th Doctor because, you know, we don't have, you know, Christopher Eccleston and Matt Smith doing Big Finish just yet. So I just find that a bit of an odd release, really. And obviously we saw the release of Jenny, the Doctor's daughter, which I did buy. And I quite enjoyed it. I thought that Jenny was a very promising spin-off, and I hope that Big Finish kind of pick it up and do another run of stories because I feel like there is a lot of potential within that range. So I really do hope that they do something quite exciting. In 2018, I picked up the Diary of a River Song for the first time, Series 3 with the 5th Doctor. An amazing box set. It was in my top 10 releases for last year. It was a fantastic box set. I do recommend that one actually because it does something quite different and it makes Rivers kind of... It's kind of a bit Douglas Adams in place, especially My Dinner with Andrew. It's just a very interesting box, and it's got a very interesting premise, kind of linking back to Demon's Run, you know, Series 6 with Madame Kavarian. So it's quite interesting how that ties into the grand scheme of that kind of series. Oh, in 2018, I've got to mention it, we actually had a 3rd Doctor and Sideman story full cast. Obviously, we had the Blue Tooth and the 5 Doctors, but it was so nice just to have a proper story of the 3rd Doctor locking horns with a Cyberman. It was just amazing and it's just fantastic. I love it. So yeah, 2018 was kind of continued branching out into the spin-off world and just continuing getting my favourite ranges really. So yeah, 2019, we're all up to date now. Yeah, 2019's been a very exciting year Big Finish wise. We've seen a lot of change in the main range, which I think's needed. Because if you want to keep the main range fresh and exciting, you've got to, you know, reinvigorate it. We've seen Chameleon return this year, and Mags, and obviously we've got Perry back, which is interesting, but they're not going for the older Perry from, you know, Widow's Assassin, Masters of Earth, and Rani Elite. We've got kind of the Perry what we've seen from the TV series. So I'd quite like to see older Perry picked up at some point because, you know, that's a plot thread what needs to be wrapped up. Within the main range. But yeah, we've got Perry coming back as well. This is, you know, really exciting, and we've got the Lost Stories coming back with you know, I think the Ultimate Evil is it, and a 5th Doctor one, which is probably the one I'm most excited about because I know nothing about, and the Ultimate Evil sounds a bit ridiculous really. I find, you know, that, oh no, we're going to stop it with a peace ray. Yeah, the Ultimate Evil thing sounds a bit iffy really, that. But yeah, 2019 continues to be full of surprises and excitement. We've got Legacy of Time, you know, Lives of Captain Jack Volume 2, which I don't think anyone would have predicted. We have 10th Doctor Volume 3, which was an amazing box set, which I still need to review. And the 3rd Doctor Adventures Volume 5, which is a massive standout for me because we saw the Brigadier and Liz Shaw come back. So that's amazing. I feel like 2019 is definitely up there with like 2015. It's just full of so many amazing releases. I think 2019 we're going to be full of more surprises. We've got Lucy Miller coming back, which is exciting. You know, that's going to be really exciting because that's kind of, like I say, where my Big Finish journey kind of began, getting those 8th Doctor stories. So it's going to be really nice hearing, you know, Paul McGann and Sheridan Smith again. So that's really exciting stuff. So yeah, I think Big Finish are going to continue to surprise us and make our ears incredibly happy. So many more wonderful announcements to come. You know, I'm really hoping that we get the 8th Doctor comics. Everything in 2019 for Big Finish just seems incredibly special because it's the 20th anniversary and it just feels like they are pushing the boat out. You know, the main range I just think's amazing right now. I just think it's in a real good place, the main range for me. It's just got so many exciting projects and stories to come, and we've got so many wonderful box sets which I'm sure I'm gonna love. So yeah, 2019 Big Finish so far, I just feel like each year I become more invested and more engrossed in Big Finish, and I just think Big Finish keep providing such excellent content. So thank you Big Finish for making our ears incredibly happy and providing us new Doctor Who when Doctor Who isn't on our screens. And Big Finish is very much like Pringles. Once you pop, you really can't stop listening to them because it's just amazing, and I'm sure that Big Finish, like I say, are going to constantly surprise us and keep us on our toes and just provide us with excellent stories. So I think that's the best way to close this video. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.